Alright everybody, today we're going to talk about red flags and home inspections. The home inspection I'm going to be talking about is the one that I had done on a rental that I bought back in December of last year. And there's quite a few things in this one that we'll talk about and show. Now when you're doing the home inspection, like your client's having the home inspection done, the first thing I would do though for your buyer or seller is educate them up front. Let them know that there's going to be things that come up in the home inspection. So if it's the seller, let them know, say, hey, you know, I know you take care of your home, but this home inspector is going to pick it apart, so don't freak out when it starts, you know, we get this report. And then buyers, educate them up front what to look for, the major things to look for, like roof, electrical, plumbing, your foundation, if there's any water in the basement, anything like that. So you want to make sure you educate them so they're not panicking when that report comes in, because I've seen some reports come in 70 pages long. I can't remember how many mine are here. It's quite a bit. It was an extensive report on mine. So just make sure they're educated and ready and aware of what's going to happen when this report comes back, because they are paid to find stuff. And also, when you get this report back and you're going over it with your client, make sure you can advise them of things, but don't tell them, say, hey, you have to put this down. You have to put this electrical stuff down, because, or, you know, say, we're just going to ask for these two things and forget about the rest, because if something goes wrong, they're going to come back and say, hey, he told me to do this. He didn't let me decide on what I wanted to ask for and stuff. So let your clients decide, but you can advise them and talk to them about it. So this is on the property I have in Mountain City. And I knew going into this property it was going to need some things, but I'll show you some of the red flags that come up on mine. A lot of the stuff that you mainly are concerned about are safety hazards, anything like expensive heating and air and stuff like that. You want to make sure that's all properly taken care of. This one here, I mean, a home inspector is going to pop up little things too, like this one here, steps are crumbling. I mean, I can see that obviously. You know, it's an older home and everything. The front door had some rotting and things going on. But the red flags here that I seen on mine was a lot of the fascia board on this one was rotted, and the bank made me have it all replaced. Wasn't like a safety issue or anything, but for them, it was a value issue. They want to make sure the product was in good, in good condition and everything. See right there's a lot of the rotting fascia that I had to have replaced and everything like that. The big issue on mine, one of the big red flags on mine was electrical. In this house, it was all knob and tube wiring. Had a lot of exposed wiring. When I just went ahead, when I bought it, I went ahead and had the whole thing rewired. And the electrician said that if I wouldn't have got it rewired earlier this year, it would probably be burnt down by the end of this year. It already had 3 places that had arced and was burnt, had burnt spots.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the major issues you want to look for is anything electrical, especially if the report comes back, has exposed wires, knob and tube wiring. Some electricians say it's not that bad as long as it's in good condition, but I think as a homeowner, I feel more comfortable having the updated electrical in there, plus the updated box. Now you have to do, like if you have a new box put in, you have to do the AFCI breakers and stuff, but they're a little bit of a pain. Just ask Matt.
Is that an updated system?
Yeah, it's an updated system, and the breaker itself has a switch on it, like it'll trip the little breaker itself. You go in there and reset it and everything. I had a broke window. That's another thing. It's a red flag is if there's any broke windows, especially for the lender, they'll want that replaced. This was a commercial loan that I did, and they asked me to replace it. anything government-wise, like VA, USDA, or FHA, they're going to ask for that to be corrected as well. Of course, there's the fascias again. The gutters, that's a little, if it has no gutters or the gutters are tore like this is, that's sort of a red flag for me myself, because you're getting water that's coming down right at the basement or right at the foundation, and it's going to start leaking in. You're going to have water in your foundation or your basement. That's a big issue, and I've noticed that lately here, especially a couple months ago when we had a bunch of rain. I had one listed. I've got one listed in Bristol. It's under contract, and water was coming through. So we had a local foundation guy go take a look at it, and then we had a structural engineer look at it, and they said they could see where the water was coming in. It was bowing a little bit, but it looked like it was structurally sound, so we were lucky on that part. But it's good to have the gutters up there to keep the water away, and then have those leads out to where it takes it away from the house and everything. One thing you're going to see on the home inspection that drives me nuts is every home inspection shows that the grade's coming toward the house. I've never seen one seller correct that. They're not going to regrade the house the opposite way, the ground. So that's one thing to, when you see it, just take in consideration. If the house was built 30, 40 years ago, they didn't think of that then. Some of it sloped toward the house. Just have to really watch it, make sure you're not gaining any water in your crawl space or your basement.
So the new developments nowadays, like new construction and stuff, they don't do it that way.
They try to grade it away,
Okay.
away from the house now. Another thing is the roof. This one, it showed it was sagging right at the main line of the house where the top of the trusses and everything. I had somebody look at it, and they said it was structurally sound. Roofs are a big one that people red flag. Shingles. I had one, in Abingdon that we were told had a new roof on it, and we couldn't see it. It was a double wide. I didn't climb up there, and it was on a permanent foundation, so it was up pretty high, and I'm like 5 foot nothing, so we couldn't really see it. And the home inspector gets up there and gets pictures of it. The whole half of the roof was gone. Shingles were gone. And I said, "Where's the new roof?" And they like, "Oh, we haven't put it on yet." But they were already advertising that it had a new roof on it. So that was a big concern, and especially the bowing. If the roof's bad and the plywood's bad, and especially if you get any cracked trusses or anything, it's going to sag. So eventually you're just going to have a new roof put on. Everything tore off, everything, structured up, and then a new roof put back on. Luckily mine wasn't that bad, so. Let's see. The next thing was crawl space. In the crawl space, they found, if you can see here, water in the basement here in the crawl space area. It's like a little area that you can walk down into. Plus, there was open wires there in the circuit. The previous owner did nothing to this property. So they said that we could put 2 sump pumps in and it would solve it. But I think they've come to determine that this has a spring under the house. So that's something that if you have a spring or something like that, you can talk to a foundation specialist, and they'll probably end up putting 2 sump pumps to keep the water out and everything. Definitely, if you see any cracks in the foundation, have a foundation guy take a look at it, because that's a red flag too. Even if it's just a little stair-step ones and it's just little cracks or whatever, nothing major, it still could let moisture and water come into the basement. I think Callie had one currently that has the stair-step, but it's in the mortar joints, and there's probably quarter-inch gap down through there. So that looks like a structural issue there, but they're going to have a foundation guy, I guess, look at it and everything. But that's a big one. And then another red flag on the inspections, especially in the crawl space and everything, is termite issues. And if you have mold or anything like that growing underneath, the wood or anything, just because all that moisture that's down there. luckily, I think there's some on this, and they treated it. I got it treated and everything, and got it taken care of. Let's see. Yeah, see some mold, and then open wires down through here. Let's see what the next one is. There's a lot of foundation stuff on this one. It's easy, he was standing in the water. And I had to add a humidifier tube to it. Then here comes the electrical part. Like I was saying, electrical here, it had an old box in it. So I had to have the whole thing done and a new outside weather head put on. I had to do the whole thing because the electrical was so bad in this house. And there's 3 kids that live in this house, so there's no way I could sleep at night, with that going on. So those are definitely ones. And then the outlets and stuff, definitely talk to an electrician about if it's 2-prong, getting it switched to the 3-prong with a ground on it, because a lot of times they'll switch to 2 prongs, but they won't have no ground on it. And a home inspector is going to flag that as well, or if you need a GFCI outlet near all the sinks or anything like that. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Then heating and air, definitely. If you're looking at the heating and air and it looks like a very old system, the home inspector is going to flag that just due to the age and everything, and would recommend somebody coming and looking at it, because a lot of times some of the older ones will last a long time, but you don't want to buy a house and then all of a sudden, or your client buy a house and the heat pump goes out and there's no warranty, home warranty or anything. So definitely look at that. And then it leaks under the sink and stuff. You can, if it's small leaks or whatever, those are the things I don't worry about too much. Most clients won't worry too much about that, because those they can fix. But if the plumbing is pretty bad, or pretty bad, like if it's got galvanized plumbing and everything, those can get clogged up with corrosion and everything over years. And then water heaters. I don't think it's in this one. I think it's in another one that I have that I did a few years ago. The water heater was in a crawl space. Well, I guess you could walk in it. It's considered a crawl space. The whole bottom of the water heater was rusted. So they was going to have to replace that and everything.
They usually want to know too, like when it was bought, like if you have the paperwork of when you got it.
Yeah, and most of the time I think water heaters 10 years at the most, I think they say. So, and they're pretty expensive anymore.
I think isn't you can tell the year of them by the first 2 numbers of the serial
I believe so.
number.
Oh, is that true?
Something like that. And then heat pumps. Most of them used to have the date on there. Now you have to read the code or whatever on it. Another thing, especially structural there. Appliances, you can, a lot of them could be red flag, but a lot of them now, half the houses you go in don't even have appliances in them. A refrigerator or anything, or a stove. I've got one in Abington, Glade Springs right now has no appliances. So,
I've seen a lot of inspection reports with the dryer vents, like
Yes.
the vents not going outside, putting in buckets of water.
yeah, and then a lot of them going under the house. This one was sticking out a window. So I had to have a new dryer vent put in.
Yeah.
And that is sort of a red flag if it's clogged up and stuff, because they will catch on fire quick. So definitely if they look and it says it's clogged up, definitely talk to your people about, the cellar or whatever, getting it cleaned out to make sure, because it will burn fast. Broken window there. Let's see. A light that had live wires hanging down. So, like I said, the main things that I worry about is foundation, roof, electrical, plumbing, and heating and air. That's the big items that's gonna cost your buyer in the end. I think this is just an overview of everything that I was supposed to get done that he picked up on. And luckily, the guy that did this was a retired firefighter that lives in Mountain City that does the home inspections, and he definitely caught a lot of stuff. He did a thorough job for me. So just pay attention when looking at the home inspections. A lot of the home inspectors, they'll put them in categories. If it's a safety hazard, if it's, just needs to be looked at or something just to be aware of. And I always go for the safety ones, to let people know, hey, if it's anything in this red safety area, that's something that's got to be taken care of. And plus radon in the area. Radon is getting more and more that I've seen on reports, and I've actually seen more and more people doing testing on it. Yeah. The people that's moving in here, I guess where they lived, it was pretty prevalent there, but definitely have that checked.
That takes about 24 to 48 hours for them to do that testing.
Yeah, and it's worth waiting 2 days just to see if it's going to be high or not, because I heard of a case in Abingdon when I first started real estate. It was an older lady, and her son lived in the basement. Well, he died of lung cancer. And when they were going to sell the house, and she was going to move in with family, they did a radon test, and it was up in the 30s. So they're not 100% sure that's what it was, but I think the EPA says that it's not good for your breathing and everything. So just look for that on a home inspection too when they have that done. Yeah. And I guess that's about it. A home inspection is not too bad, not too hard to go over. If you got questions about it, you can always call the inspector, or you can ask one of us. That's me, Lincoln, Matt, Dustin, Ariel, any of us that's here. We'd be happy to help go over it with you and with your clients and everything. I think that's about it on my report here. Just a bunch of jumbled words. And just reiterating the money I'm going to have I had to shell out, so that's about it. So if you have any questions, I'm always here at the office.
And as far as that goes, Joey, like you were buying this one as a rental, but so if you're representing the seller, say, then you could always say, well, you can either have, because they've seen the report, the buyers, under contract, you can have all this repairs done, or we could see if they'll take a little lower off, and the asking price in a contract and just buy as is.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, then at the final walkthrough, the stuff you agreed upon had to be fixed has to be fixed, right?
Yeah, and you can always negotiate the repairs out, either fixing it or like there's 10 items that they want repaired, and you say, I'll do 5 of them, and if you come to an agreement, you're good. Or they may just say, just take some money off of the purchase price, or throw so much money toward my closing cost, and then if you repair them, they'll come through at final walkthrough and make sure it's all done. And if it's not done, then that's going to hold your closing up, because then they're going to have to go back and do it again. Go ahead and finish it and everything. They used to, now a lot of home inspectors will go back, but they charge you. There used to be one in Bristol, had to be like the greatest home inspector in the world. He would go do your home inspection. You would get your report right then. As soon as he was done, you had your report. You did your stuff, and he would go back for free and look at it. And but he retired. When he retired, I was like, he was a great home inspector. But it doesn't hurt to have them go back and look, because I have been in deals where the seller didn't fix anything. Yeah. They thought they'd try to get by with it, and then that just proved. The closing got dragged out, and they finally, done them, and I think give her credit or something.
So if an inspector goes back and they're the expert, and they confirm that everything's okay, then there shouldn't be an issue with going on. Yeah.
And then like on your termite inspection too, I've seen some home inspectors now that are doing termite inspections too, and they put that on there too. And if you need a treatment or whatever, they'll let you know, and then you just, like, the buyer will ask the seller to do it, and then once it's done, I mean, you'll know it's done because that termite person will go back and do that and give an invoice for it.
Okay.
So that's about it. If you have any questions, you can come by the office, or everybody knows you can call, text me, whatever, and I'll answer.
Thank you, Joey.
You're welcome.